Good morning. You're listening to WPVM LP in Asheville, North Carolina, 103.7 on your dial. This is the BLAINESWORLD show, heard each Wednesday at 9 a.m., and you can also watch us on WPVM's Facebook page. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, in my lovely studio in downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on the Asheville theater scene, as well as positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce my first guest, and she is Shelia Sumpter with Kids at Heart. And Sheila, you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends on Facebook world.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, so if you're watching, that's Sheila. And Sheila, as you'll see and hear, is the founder and director of Kids at Heart. And Heart is the Hayward Arts Regional Theater in Waynesville, North Carolina. She's also spent most of her life dancing in the theater. And also, you were telling me off the air, you also now are teaching full-time as a what kind of teacher?
I teach English language arts to students with ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and autism.
That's cool. You got into that just a couple of years ago. Is that correct?
Well, probably around 2012, I got into studying because both my daughter and my husband had dyslexia. And it was a side job to my theater job.
Right. And so you just all of a sudden you want to be teaching this subject, and that's really cool.
Well, I just realized, well, first of all, my skills as a theater teacher
Sure.
Have helped a lot because I certainly do understand multisensory education from that. But I just saw that they were a grossly underserved population.
Okay. And so you've been doing that now for a bunch of years, but let's talk more about the theater stuff you do. And so I asked you off the air that you started, I guess, singing and dancing. How old were you?
I was 3. I had rubella when I was 2, and I was having trouble walking again, and I was very clumsy. So my mother put me in dance class every day.
Okay. But now, did you enjoy that as a kid?
It was I didn't know any different. I mean, it was my lifestyle. I would go to school, come home, and go to either jazz, tap, ballet, baton twirling, anything she could stick in there. And I just thought everybody else did that.
Well, you told me something funny off the air. We were talking about, theater, and some people kind of think it's strange that people sing and dance and perform. And what was I love your response on that.
Well, then they don't know theater kids because we every day of our life we break into song and dance. So that seems normal to us. So I don't know why it's so strange to other people.
And it's so funny because people do tell me that, they'll say they don't like musicals. But you know what, Sheila, somebody told me it was a great line. I was once saying the same thing too. I didn't like 1 or 2 person at shows, I didn't like whatever. And then I was told, it was a great response, is I didn't see good 1 or 2 person shows, so I guess
Right.
that theater too, that if you see bad theater, it can be bad whether small or large, but if it's good, it's fun. Your very first production, do you remember?
The very first production that I was in, or
That you
that
were
Hart
in?
did?
No, that you were in.
Oh my goodness. It was probably the studio where I studied as a young child. We did television shows, we did USO shows, and we did when I say local, they were these huge community shows. So probably one of the huge community shows was one of the first things I did. I would dance at the drop. I danced at piano recitals. That tells you something about my piano playing.
Well, now you dance, that's pretty cool. So you were doing dancing and performing, or even USO's shows. That's pretty cool.
We were near Fort Benning, so
where was that? Where'd you grow up?
In Columbus, Georgia.
Okay. So when you were a little girl in Columbus, Georgia, I'll ask you 2 questions. The first is, so do you remember if not the first show, do you remember one of the first shows you ever were in?
Well, I used to write shows, my own shows. I was the kid in the neighborhood who would write a show, get everybody together, make them stand on our porch and perform it, or do things that my family's, for my family, the dreaded like Thanksgiving. And I decided we were going to perform for everybody. So as far as shows performing, I don't remember a specific theater show. We did a lot of variety shows. We did we would sing and dance. I remember we did a show once, and there was a big star that came down, and I wanted to sit on that star so badly, but unfortunately another girl got to do that. She got to swing on the star.
Your story sounds like almost like Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney movie.
It was exactly like that. It was exactly like that. We had both a front porch, because I'm from Georgia, and a back porch. And the back porch was raised. So it was just like a stage. So you could sit out in the yard in the back and perform on the porch. And it was just like having your own theater.
Well, I'm so glad I'm speaking to you because you're the first person that's going to make this idea I shared with you a reality. But I think I told you off the air that I want to do through HART, consider it as a fundraiser, that everybody would do their very first show, their first number. So you'd have something to show now your daughter, you show your husband that here was the very first thing you did as a 3-year-old or 4. Wouldn't that be fun though?
It is. And like I said, the first show that I remember, I was 7 and I got to do my first solo at a USO show.
What was the solo?
The solo was Frankie and Johnny. I got to do a jazz number to Frankie and Johnny for the soldiers.
Did you sing and dance or just dance?
Sang and danced.
Well, so can you imagine? So I asked you that you probably don't have a videotape of that?
No, because like I said, I was in the age of the dinosaurs. I'm surprised, they would have just like the little tintype cameras now.
No, but wouldn't that be great though? If we had you perform it now over the summer or summertime, we could find time and that we make a recording of this, so you could pass it on to Nicole. You could pass it on to, future generations to get their first performance of the mom. You could just see, I could just see your daughter doing this, Candace doing this, Steve Lloyd doing this, all the HART people. But I think it'd be popular, don't you?
I think so. I think people would enjoy seeing. Hopefully we're a little bit better now. Well, I don't know that I'd be better now because I'm on that downside of the spiral. But like I said, I thought I was so special getting to perform my first solo.
By the way, do you still perform and dance?
I will act occasionally. I don't sing at all anymore, and I will dance occasionally.
Yeah. Have you been in HART productions?
My last year I did Arsenic and Old Lace, and I did the 13 Clocks.
Okay, so we're both sure. So,
I know.
Okay, well, I see everything at HART.
I was Aunt Abby in Arsenic and Old Lace.
Okay.
And I was Hag in 13 Clocks.
I love it. We won't say you were typecast, but that's kind of unfortunate,
Thanks.
No, we won't say that, But at any rate, or no, to the contrary, I was disappointed, Sheila, very frankly, that I saw Anne Frank just recently, and I thought you were going to be Anne, so I thought it'd go the other way.
Obviously, I should have been.
Exactly. So talk a little bit about then this program, which I don't know too much about, but HART now, in addition to having the regular productions, has something called Kids at HART. What is that?
Right. Kids at HART was founded about 2016, maybe it might have even been 2015. I presented it, this is something I've been wanting to do for forever. And I finally convinced Steve.
Hold on one second. Brent, I'm going to try to see if we have our other guests we're here. So I'm going to try to mute him. I think I did. Okay, good. So I'm sorry, you were saying about Kids at HART.
Yeah, it was something I had always wanted to do. And apparently Steve had this idea in the back of his mind, Steve Lloyd, who's the executive director of HART and actually the founder of, he's not the founder of HART, but he has certainly brought HART a long way. And so he said, give me a proposal. Tell me what you'd like to do. And I told him, and he says, that seems pretty ambitious, but it worked. And it worked because I had so much support from, of course, the HART board of directors and from the community. But what I wanted was an opportunity for kids to perform where it was open to any kid. So no kid is charged to perform at all in a HART production. It is free to, which, a lot of places are going now where they do shows, the kids will have to pay a fee. So no kid is charged to be part of any HART production. And it's open to anybody, anybody in the community. We actually have kids who come from Franklin, Cashiers, Asheville, all over the surrounding area.
I was pretty impressed. You actually have a pretty ambitious production schedule in terms of during a typical year or this past year. How many shows do you put on?
We did 6, and we're currently in production of The Little Mermaid, which is real exciting. We've got several new faces. Of course, we graduated a lot of kids who've gone on and they're studying theater now, some of them. And we have 3 more coming up this season. And I'm also working on our programming for the summer. I haven't made the decisions about those shows yet.
Now talk about the show itself, so that when you do a Kids at HART production, that typically isn't the full production. Is that correct?
A lot. Well, it depends. If it is a play, a non-musical, it usually is the full production. But because of the cost, we many times do what's called junior productions, and these are shows that Music Theater International has shortened to make it more accessible to kids. It's something that'll be easier to do, and it's not going to have the huge price tags that comes with the full stage production.
And then also typically shorter in time too, right?
Yes.
It's like typically about
Usually
an hour.
from an hour to an hour and a half.
Okay. And so when you do, for example, The Little Mermaid, talk about how much work that involves, because again, I don't think people realize this. They come see a show, and you only, by the way, Kids at Heart productions typically only run one weekend. Is that correct? Or they sometimes
run
do?
2 weekends.
Oh, fantastic. So talk a little bit about what that entails, Sheila.
Well, we are Kids at Heart is totally self-contained. So we do our own, and usually it's me and a couple of the parents who are helping out. And now we're very fortunate, Candace Dickinson. She's been a big help to us. And my daughter works with Kids at Heart. We also have a wonderful music director. It was formerly Jerry Harris from New York, but she's back in New York. And now Maria Frost is helping us with music. But we do everything. The kids help, everything from costuming to choreography. There are about 32 kids that are performing in Little Mermaid. And so we have people helping us build sets. The kids are helping to make the props. And we don't, when a lot of people are surprised when they see our kids' productions because they think they're coming to see a kid's production.
Right.
Your cardboard sets and whatever. What we tell our kids is, when we do this, people are paying to come see you. We expect you to be professional. So they're treated as professionals and they rise to the occasion and they act like professionals.
Talk about how long it takes to put on the show. In other words, you mentioned this coming up in November.
It comes up in November.
When do you start casting it and getting it off the ground?
We cast it in at the end of August, and we began rehearsals in the middle of September, but we only rehearse Thursday and Friday afternoons for 2 hours and Saturday mornings. So there's not a whole lot of rehearsal time. So they work very hard while they're there.
Okay. How long are the rehearsals?
They're 2 hours.
Okay. That's pretty, people don't realize that they'll come see a show and say, oh, this is cool. They don't realize how much time and effort people put into it.
These kids worked so hard. I mean, they're wonderful. They put their heart and soul into it. And they've come so far. And they take it very, very seriously. I think people think they're just coming and they're playing.
Right.
I don't give breaks. And when the kid first comes to Kids at Heart, they're like, oh my goodness, are we going to have to keep doing this? And then after a couple of weeks, they get used to it. And I know a couple of weeks ago, I said, let's take 5 minutes. And they were shocked that they were going to get to take some time out. So but it was just because I had needed to talk to a parent.
It's tough for you as the director in terms of the audition process.
I hate the audition process.
I was going to say, because you have so many talented, probably kids come out, and that to have to not slot everybody in. That
is the worst part of my job. And I have to do it with a lot of, it's the least favorite thing I do. Because we try to use as many kids as possible. But there are sometimes we can't cast a kid because their schedule doesn't allow them to meet our rehearsal schedules. Sometimes they're just not ready to be on stage yet. We have a lot of kids who come totally unprepared for auditions. They'll show up for a musical and go, oh, I have to sing. And they haven't prepared a song and they haven't looked at what they're supposed to do to prepare. But letting a kid know that either they didn't get the part they wanted, because you have to explain to them, it's not that they don't have talent, because sometimes there are many people who have a lot of talent for the show. But I choose, I don't precast, I choose the person who gets the best audition. And they'll do things like, oh, but I'm a senior, I should have that part. And I said, well, that's great. But, and you did a wonderful audition, but you did not do the best audition. And we're trying to teach them to be professionals at, they need to work, to do the work they need to do to come up to the excellence that we expect with the lead performers.
What's very tough, I imagine, for you, Sheila, is the fact that there's so many talented folks out there.
Oh, yes.
And that and I'm not a performer, but I'll tell friends and whatnot that don't take it at heart, if you will, heart, using heart too. But it's just that you just have to keep going at it and doing it again and try for the next show. But it's not a personal thing. But unfortunately, too many people take it personally.
They do take it personally. We have people, if they don't get the lead part, even though they've never done anything before, then they want to audition again.
Have you had that happen?
Oh yeah, we just recently had that happen. They didn't get the part they wanted, which was a lead role that they had never performed before. So they did not want to do it anymore, even though they gave a wonderful performance. It just wasn't as good as the girl who was cast. Right. So what they don't realize is you can have, or you may have, you may be a brilliant singer, but you don't have all the qualities that are necessary for that character. Doesn't mean you don't have talent. Doesn't mean you shouldn't go on to do more things, which is what I try to tell them, that, this part wasn't right for you, but there could be something great coming down the line. The girl who has the lead in Little Mermaid, I mean, she has stuck in there. She's taken every class she could take. She has helped with productions. She has choreographed productions, and she's worked and worked and worked. And when she auditioned, I was amazed. I mean, she just had the essence of the Little Mermaid, and I had never really, since I don't precast, I don't really think of it that way. And so when I get something like that, after she left, I called her to come back and ask her if she could do that song again and do a couple other things. I just wanted to make sure. So finding something like that, and that happened with our last production as well, that is exciting, and it's amazing that somebody has put the work in and has risen to, gushing a little too much, but they've risen to the occasion. So
no, it's very exciting.
Really proud of them.
And one of the things that always impresses me about a show, and oftentimes the show at HART, the main stage, is how perfect the casting is. It just knocks my socks off. I was telling you off the air, I just saw Diary of Anne Frank, and just, wow, was that cast well? And every character you can see in that role, and as you said, they may not be perfect in every role, but they're perfect
right
in that role. Talk a little bit about how you choose the other shows, and one in particular you can mention I'm really looking forward to. So for the remainder of this year, what are some of the shows coming up? Kids at Heart.
Of course, Little Mermaid will open November 13th and run through November 21st. And at the beginning of December, we're going to have two auditions. One is for Anne of Green Gables, which will be directed by Kristen Hedberg. There will be a mixture of adults and kids in that show as well, because we like for adults to be involved, sometimes to be mentors to the younger.
Well, not only that, in that show in particular, Anne of Green Gables, I guess you could have a kid play the adult roles, but it doesn't.
Good, but we don't do that.
Right. Oh, so that's cool. So there'll be kids and adults, but it'll be produced at the kids
right
component.
Produced as the Kids at Heart.
And
as a matter of fact, one of the actresses that is in Anne of the Diary of Anne Frank,
right,
she was in our very first Kids at Heart production. One of the adults, she was one of our mentors in our very first Best Christmas Pageant ever. She had the lead in that.
Who was that?
She was our adult mentor for that show.
Who is that?
That was Stacey Hembry.
Oh,
and she plays the lady in the fur coat.
And by the way, I just complimented her because I don't see her in many HART productions. She was saying
she's not.
Boy, she said that, but I won't say anybody stole that show, but she was really good in it.
She's amazing.
So she was. That's really interesting. It all comes around too. So you mentioned Anne of Green Gables. So what are the other shows coming up?
And in April, we will be producing Newsies, not Newsies Junior, but Newsies. And our kids are so excited because not only will be kids in this production, but we're inviting adults to join us as well. So we have college students who are calling us going, we're going to, we want to get in on that. And hopefully the adults at the theater will join us as well, because it should be a fun experience for everybody.
And almost a show that calls for kids, too. It's a kid-centric performance. But I told you have to remember I want to do a show on that because it's one of the great shows. It just, folks should be on the lookout for that show when it comes to HART. It's going to be really outstanding. And that's a big show also, isn't it?
It is. So we're going to be starting some of the dance rehearsals right after Christmas.
Very exciting. The Kids at HART now, do you do the productions on the main stage or the other stage, or varies?
When we originally started, it was planned that we would do the shows in the Fangmeyer Theater. However, usually our shows sell out. So we are in the main stage theater. So it's rare when our shows don't sell out.
Okay.
And the only times they haven't sold out was during the COVID period. So,
Well, it's funny because people say that one of the things that shows should do is you bring in kids, you're going to get the parents, their grandparents,
Right.
kind of get all other people. But Newsies, I can just see, you convinced me that's really going to be exciting. Is that the first time you've done a full stage production with both kids and adults like that?
A full stage production, yes and no. I mean, we use the kids like they're in all of the productions, and I oversee that the kids are being treated the way they should, and that they're doing their job. I mean, we use kids all the time in art production. That's how they learn. And frankly, it introduces a new generation to theater.
Now, talk a little also about using the kids, and I think it's very exciting too, that aside from performing, you have other roles that have to be. No, that's okay.
I apologize. That's one of our dog performers.
Right,
you may have seen him in our Christmas Carol recently. Yes, our kids are actually, we teach them all aspects of the theater. So our kids learn to stage manage. They can hang backdrops better than the adults can. They make props. They support the main stage shows. Like if they need people to work backstage, our kids do it.
But
So,
in particular, we'll give a shout out to your daughter, because
yes.
I've always been impressed with her that I asked her once, she has done some acting, but that's not her thing, right? For the most part.
No, this is funny because this is what I do. And she was never interested in what I did until she became an adult. So she had, she enjoyed the perks of it, like getting to see all the Broadway shows and meeting the people that she was able to meet. But she wasn't interested until Kids at Heart. Well, it was a little before Kids at Heart. And she has fallen in love with it. She loves to stage manage particularly, but she thought she was a director when she was 5. So that doesn't, shock me. But she is the assistant director and stage manager for The Diary of Anne Frank. She has stage managed most of the shows this past season. She is the stage manager for Little Mermaid, and she'll be the assistant director for Newsies.
And we'll give a shout out. We're talking about your daughter
This is Nicole Sumter.
And just give a shout out to her, for very hard worker. But it seems one of the unsung heroes in any show is the stage manager,
Exactly.
Talk about 2 things, I guess, if you would, Sheila. First of all, what a stage manager does, and then how important it is to the production.
Well, the stage manager is essential because at the final dress rehearsal, well, actually before the final dress rehearsal, the director gives the show to the stage manager. It belongs to the cast and the stage manager because there's nothing more the director can do. So it's up to that stage manager to run the show. So the stage manager is in charge of making sure the actors are doing what they're supposed to do, making sure the props are there, making sure the backdrops come down when they're supposed to, making sure the set pieces roll on and off, making sure, everybody's doing their job. And that's difficult to do when you've got 32 kids backstage. So usually I have a stage manager and an assistant to the stage manager for the kids shows.
So I'll give a compliment also to your daughter that I got the biggest kick out of the performance she gave. She was the stage manager for the one with the party when they just did with
Wonderful.
You're right. And who was the piano player?
John Crowley.
John Crowley, one of my favorites. But I love watching your daughter. She was stage manager for that too, was she?
She was the stage manager and John's sidekick.
Right. But it was so funny watching her because she wasn't, stage manager is usually behind the scenes. Is that correct?
Yes.
But here she got called into action. So anytime John was playing the piano, she had to flip the pages, right?
Right.
But she really got into it. I was kind of watching her. She was tentative at first, but then she got comfortable. And so did she know she was going to have to do that?
Well, when John and Glenn Arnett, who was the director of the show, got together and wanted to do this, John teasingly said, "I'm not doing it unless Nicole's doing it," because she also worked with him on the show that we did before that, which was, oh my goodness, I can't think of it. The year before, the one that
the big musical also, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I said I didn't know if they could behave themselves. I was a choreographer for that show, but she loved working with John. And so a lot of what you saw was just the camaraderie between actors on stage and just, seeing the chemistry between the two of them.
But it was really just so funny to watch it. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm watching, I love John as a talented, performer or whatever.
Right.
But just to watch all of a sudden your daughter would come in every couple minutes and turn the page, then she'd look at him, and it's just really cute to watch it. She just got called into action. Talk a little bit in our remaining time, Sheila, so that we have the shows coming up and people can sign up for the shows. And you mentioned very exciting. So kids can perform in it. Like you said, there's no charge to be in a show. And I think that's really cool because, as you said, a lot of theaters now would charge a performance fee, or what do they call it?
They charge a performance fee, or is considered a class. It could be anywhere from $100 to $400, depending on what part of the country you're in. And that helps to cover their cost. So my agreement was that I would be happy to direct as long as no child was ever charged to perform in a HART production.
Very exciting. Talk about, without mentioning the cost involved, but just overall, I know you also have lots of courses you have available to people as well. So talk about them, I guess, for both kids and adults. What are some of these courses?
Yeah, we started off with just kids, and we teach acting, musical theater, voice, and they're taught for a very minimum charge. Of course, if there's a child who wants to take and can't afford it, we find a way to make that happen. And this year, we've had some adults go, please give us some dance lessons. Please give us, I taught a directing class for kids last year that was a big success. So the adults got into, so we met the adults join this year. Candace is teaching at this time. So my daughter is taking it along with Julie, who's a wonderful director already. And then kids who are older kids, they have to have a lot of theater experience to take it, but they're also taking. So the same thing happened with our tap class. We were doing a tap class for older teens. And so now my class is older teens from 15, and my oldest is close to 70, and they love it.
Oh, so take it with the kids at the same time?
They take it with the kids. We can, and the kids are loving having the adults in there. It's amazing because, sometimes they feel a little funny, but they're all getting along really well. They all act about the same age.
Now, at the end of the class, do you have a performance, or is there a graduation thing for each class?
Yes, what we do usually is the parents are all invited, and I do something different for each session that we do. So sometimes they'll be presenting monologues, sometimes they'll present scenes or a short little play, but they do something to demonstrate what they've learned.
Very nice. And so now for the 70-year-old, she can bring her children and grandchildren?
She can. When I mentioned the little performance thing, they said, oh, no, we're not going to be ready for that. You'd be surprised.
And how long are the courses typically?
Well, it depends. Like this session, because we're having so many things involving kids at HART, this was just an 8-week session. But usually they run 10 to 12 weeks. So because we know that it's difficult for people to commit for a whole year, both financially and with the time constraints that they have. So we offer it so you can sign up for something different or do a continuance of the course in the fall and spring.
And talking about time constraints, I'll ask you 2 quick final questions. One having to do with the fact that it's kind of fun listening to you. You kind of almost gush over the fact that after but in a nice way, after they graduate from Kids at HART, what happens to them?
Well, a lot of them go to college and study theater. Right now, we have 3 kids at Lee's McRae College. We have 3 at Western Carolina University. We have kids at University of North Carolina in Wilmington and at Appalachian. And I'm sure there are others that I can't think of right at the moment. But not just to study acting, but 2 of the ones at Lee's McRae, they're studying theater administration. So they're hoping to either run a theater or to become professional stage managers. So, it's wonderful to go on and pursue a career in theater, but I think what the theater experience gives these kids more than anything is you see a kid grow into themselves. They become a little bit more confident. They're accepted because theater is such an accepting community. They feel accepted, they feel loved, they feel supported, and just the change in their confidence level in the way they react with other people. I think it affects them when they go on to other things. Like I have one who's a wonderful speaker in front, for their job that they do now. They use them to go out in front of people because they can represent them so well. So
If folks want to find out more about Kids at Heart in particular, what's the best bet?
The best bet is to go to our website, which is www.hearttheater.org, or give us a call at 828-456-6322.
Okay, I'll have you repeat that website is
www.hearttheater.org.
Okay, and of course it's theater spelled the correct way, R-E.
Well, yes, R-E.
Okay. Sheila, this is so much fun. Thank you very much for being a guest my first half hour on the Blaine's World Show.
Well, thank you. And I apologize for my supporting actor over there.
No, you should have brought him into the act. Speak to you soon, Sheila. See you at the
Thank
theater.
you.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Okay, and as Sheila kind of works her way out of the theater here, let me see if I can get rid of her. Brent, be with you 1 second. I want to say bye to Sheila. And Brent, I'll be with you 1 second. Have a quick announcement. I'd like to mention to folks that WPVM's mission is to foster a community through programming that cultivates dialogue to inform and entertain. Station provides the medium for artists, businesses, community leaders, and nonprofits to share their voice on live radio, also now on Facebook Live as well. Listeners are invited to help support WPVM's efforts by making a tax-deductible contribution. They can do so by going to the website, WPVMFM.org, and looking at the donate option on the upper right-hand side. It's next my pleasure to introduce my second guest in today's show, and he is Brent Russell. And I call it, Brent, I don't just call you a broker, I'll call you a real estate broker extraordinaire. And welcome aboard, Brent. Glad you could join us. I don't have, wait, I have to, I put you on mute. Give me a second. I have to unmute you. And I think, let's see, ask to unmute. Brent, I think, Brent, can you see me or can you?
How about now?
Perfect. Okay. What happened, you were so much enjoying the last show, we were hearing you in the background, so I had to put you on mute. Anyway, Brent, you can wave to all your fans and friends on Facebook.
Hello, everybody.
Okay. Brent, I'll have to ask you about this one, Brent, but started as a bellhop, which fired up his desire to be of service, which sparked a career of building teams and a passion for operations. Enjoyed a 30-year career in the hospitality industry and transitioned to a 10-year career in senior living. Currently enjoying residential real estate sales by performing with the homeowners to buy or sell with your firm is
Beverly-Hanks.
Beverly-Hanks. And Brent just doesn't help people buy and sell. He helps them do this very well. In that, I thank you for about the 27th time, Brent, for helping me sell a home and to buy a home. You were the best. Okay.
Thank you very much, Blaine.
And Brent, before we even talk about some real estate questions, let me ask you in terms of, I love that you started as a bellhop. How old were you as a bellhop?
Oh my gosh, I was a sophomore in high school. Started as a bellhop at a Howard Johnson hotel.
Now, was that your first job?
That was my first job.
Okay. As a bellhop, when they had bellhops, when they had Howard Johnson's hotels, right?
They did.
Okay.
Yes. And you worked for tips?
Did you get paid too, or is it all tips?
Yeah, I think you made a small hourly wage, but it was one of those, just like a waitress, and they assume your tips will make up the difference.
Did you enjoy it?
It was great. And I think it started me on a lifelong love of working and being with people and serving people. I really liked it. And of course, I went on from there and I had a great career in the hospitality industry. And I think, I ended my hospitality career as the Chief Executive Officer of Choice Hotels Australasia, based in Melbourne, Australia. And then from that, I made a sea change, transitioned back to the United States, and went into the senior living business and had a wonderful 12-year career in senior living. Again, serving people with a serving heart. Really enjoyed that. And once we came full-time to Asheville, I thought, gee, I better do something to keep my mind fresh. And I missed the interaction with people. So I was fortunate enough to take the real estate class, and I was fortunate enough to go speak with Neil Hanks. And I've been with Beverly-Hanks now for 4 years, just having the time of my life.
Well, what's really cool about that story is, so you've had a bunch of different careers, especially professional careers for a period of years. Can you pick a favorite career or job you've had?
Well, my main career was 27 years in in the hospitality industry. So that was certainly something that I really enjoyed. It allowed us to move. We lived in the great cities. We lived in Melbourne, Australia, Washington, D.C., Denver, Colorado. We had some great, from a family time, that was great. And then, of course, the assisted living, senior living business was based in Washington, D.C. But hey, we're here in Asheville. Where else would you want to be? And when I tell people I'm in real estate, they say, boy, you were really lucky to go into real estate at this time. And I thought, well, probably so. I didn't know that Asheville would be so prolific with real estate at the time.
Well, I always admired you in terms of getting into real estate. So remember when I first met you with Asheville Score, you got very active very quickly in it. And remember, I was excited. Everybody else was excited. You were going to be the guy in charge of Asheville Score. You were going to be, you could have been the chair or whatnot. And all of a sudden, I turned around and Brent, you were still active in Asheville Score, but you couldn't be chair because you were too busy doing real estate, And what was it? You got bored or you just wanted to do something else?
No, I really did. When we first came here full time, I sat around for 2 months and I thought the refrigerator is my best friend and my brain is going to mush and I'll need a truck to get me out the door. So I've always had a love for real estate. Even during corporate moves, Blaine, I would try to sell my own house and did it each time, even though they said they would do it for me. So I always had a love and interest in real estate, and I'm working and actioning that now. And I think it comes through to folks. And you're right. I came to Asheville. I joined SCORE, which I really have enjoyed. I'm the president of my HOA. I'm the president of the Friends of Town Mountain. I'm a volunteer at United Way. So I jumped in pretty hard, pretty deep. But if you're going to be in real estate, Blaine, you really do need to be sure you have the time to spend with your clients and the time to do the research and be proactive so that people really do have a good buying and selling experience.
Well, two of the things that also amazed me about you, very frankly, is that number one, it doesn't seem like you sleep a lot, because you're the only guy I know, if you give Brent a call or send him an email, he'll respond even before you get off the phone. It's just incredible. But I mean, I guess that's one of the secrets behind your success is you're pretty darn good at follow-up. Would you say that's true?
Well, I would say that's true, Blaine. I think that's important. Real estate for many people, it can be one of the biggest decisions, the biggest life decision, certainly the biggest financial decision that people make. I'm fortunate. I'm a little older. I don't have a young family, so I can afford to, spend the time in the evening. But I know there are a lot of agents who are juggling families and certainly during COVID, juggling school, et cetera, and they still respond also. So if you're a people person, you tend to respond pretty quickly.
Well, again, it really impressed me that I remember even the few times you were out of town, I mean, you had the audacity to be on vacation or something, but you're always good. You always had a backup person who would help me if need be.
Yes.
But I never contacted the person because I'd call and then you would, I don't know, one time you were in Australia or someplace and I called like 5 minutes later, you called me back. And I really,
I do remember calling you from Hawaii.
I'm sorry, it was Hawaii or something. Yeah. And you had a backup, you had somebody else who's going to handle all your stuff. But that was pretty cool,
Real estate people are very giving. They're very friendly. We help each other. And it is smart to have someone who can be your backup when you're out of town. But if you're out of town and you see it on your phone and you can respond, and it's the best way, it's all about the customer service.
Well, the other thing too, when you hooked in with Beverly-Hanks, did they give you a pair of roller skates also? Because, in terms of, you get around a lot of places.
I do, but I want to say about Beverly-Hanks. I want to say about Beverly-Hanks, Blaine. I was not a young chicken, but I really took the approach of I have a lot to learn here. Let me absorb it. And Beverly-Hanks, they have a just unbelievable. They have an entire education department. They have an entire marketing department. And if you go in and you're open to receiving this training and using the tools that they have, you will be successful. I just spoke at an annual meeting for Beverly-Hanks, and I spoke to young new agents, and I said, there's a lot of fruit along your path. You have to reach up and pick it.
It's one of my favorite Brent Russell stories, and we should have prepared it in advance. But when you went with Beverly-Hanks, did they also teach you how to play the piano?
I recently had someone who didn't watch the whole video, and they said, "Oh, we know that you play the piano." And I laughed. And I said, "No, I didn't. You want me to tell that story quickly?"
Yeah, if you would. And like I said, I'm just annoyed. We should have, planned in advance to show it. But tell the story. That I think one of the first things you sent me was you said I have a video you want me to see, and tell the story.
Yeah. One of my first big homes that I listed that was over $1 million. They had a player piano, and of course it was set up in this beautiful living room, and right past behind the piano was this beautiful view. So I had the idea that I would do a little video about the house, and I would be at the piano playing the piano, and then I would get up, look at the view, and I did that. And then I realized that the player piano was still playing while I was standing up saying, "And look at this great view." It got a lot of hits. It still does. People like it. And really, just 2 weeks ago, a new friend said, "Oh, yes, you play the piano. We saw the video." And I said, "Clearly, you didn't watch the whole video," because at the end, I am surprised that the piano keeps playing.
It's one of the great videos of all time, I think, in terms of selling a house. And did it help sell a house? Did that house get sold?
Blaine, it helped sell the house. But more importantly, it brought a lot of attention to the house. It brought a lot of attention to Asheville, to that area. It was a house in North Asheville. And, just like recently, you might have seen where I had a home downtown that was in an HGTV downtown condominium contest.
Very exciting, yeah.
So that was really exciting. Here's Asheville, North Carolina, and we had a home in Asheville that competed with homes in Seattle, Albuquerque, Chicago, and it won. It won. So 1.5 million people voted in that downtown condominium category, and the condominium at 75 Broadway in Asheville won the HGTV online contest. People said to me, "Oh, are you going to be on TV, on HGTV?" No, I'm not, but it was an online contest. They have those many times throughout the year. People love to see other homes in other cities.
Has it actually been shown on TV?
They did a blurb on TV at the end of one of the shows and said, "We wanted to update you." But there were many categories. There were seaside, there were best kitchens, there was best historical homes. So there were more categories than just downtown condominium.
Well, remember, you even helped us when we were selling our home. Beverly-Hanks had another contest for just promoting a local, homes. And you helped us when we got, I guess, best kitchen or something.
Yeah, best dining room.
But best dining room.
Absolutely. You had a beautiful dining room, and we had a monthly online contest, and it goes from 20 some all the way down to then 4 finalists. And of course, your blog helped people vote.
Talk about, Brent, another thing that I think you do to help people with. I think you're very good at this. So you'll take a house, and again, every suggestion you made, I took. I think, I fought you on some, but you would say, make suggestions and tell me to do this. And I guess that's something you just pick up intuitively, or you pick up in terms of your schooling as to know how best to sell a home.
Well, Blaine, I think you have to, I've always said houses will sell in a market, and the market will tell you what they'll sell for. The market will let you know. And I've got 2 great recent experiences with that. So just this week, I have a home that's for sale. It's a gorgeous home, but it did not have much view. So I got with the seller and I said, "Look, the feedback is," listening to the market, the feedback is the house doesn't have any good views. So we were able to work with the seller, and we were able to open up some of the views. It was a large acreage property, so they were able to do that. And now I think it's made a big difference. So that's one example. And then, recently I had a home that really, it looked tired. So I think, you have to be, I think one of the things that agents have to do is be honest with buyers and sellers. So I said to the seller, "We need to spruce up the paint a little bit." We did that, and right away it went under contract. So you have to partner with your seller to make sure that they understand that you have the market knowledge to get their home sold.
It's really exciting, I guess, when people listen to you, but I guess some people fight you on it at times, or They're not good clients.
Oh, I can't tell you, listen, the real estate contract in North Carolina, there's a sentence in there that says, this home is being sold as is. Well, we all know that it's being sold as is, but if you find a problem through the due diligence period, it's customary for a buyer to say, gee, seller, would you fix that problem? I can't tell you the times I've gone back to a seller and they've said, Brent, we're selling that house as is. So you really have to educate both sellers and buyers on what the market's looking for.
You prefer being a listing agent or the selling agent?
Oh, listen, I like both. I think the challenge when you list a home, the challenge to market it, the challenge to bring people in and get the most exposure, I enjoy that. It's a very challenging to do that, and it's competitive to do that. And there again, for buyers, it's great to have buyers. You're being proactive. You communicate with them either before they come to town or before you take them out to show them homes. And it's just fun to watch it unfold and see which home they choose.
So, but the same thing too, but the selling aspect of it.
Yeah. The selling, it's just the marketing and to get the exposure and get as many people through that door, because the more people you put in the top of the funnel, there's bound to be one that'll come out the bottom and be the buyer.
You always tell me that. But how about now, you went through a period of time that it's been relatively good in terms of selling homes. Is it still as good as it was, or it's slowing down?
It is, I tell you. There's lots of things happening, and we should be very proud, and I hope people realize how fortunate this Western North Carolina and the Asheville market is. Do you know that the average appreciation year over year, the increase of value for your home for the last 36 years has been 5%? That is amazing. I hear and see people from the Midwest and the West every year that say, boy, our house has lost value.
Really?
We
Wow.
lost money. We lost money to come to Asheville. Just this year, so far, our appreciation is 8.5%. So our average has been 5, and just this year we're at 8.5. Last year we were at 5.9. Here's the thing though. Last year for 2020, available homes for sale were down 49%. This year to date through the second quarter, down another 43%. So you have demand. People are wanting to buy homes. People are wanting to move up and buy a home, and there's just not that many homes on the market. And people say, well, why aren't people putting their homes on the market? We think people would do that to try to capitalize on the market. Well, some people do that can. But remember, we've been enjoying this appreciation, so our home is worth more, but the home that we might buy will also cost more. So that makes people maybe sit back a little bit.
That was the question. I think I phrased it wrong just before, but I guess that's the challenge for you as a realtor on the other end. In other words, it's easier to sell my home, but when I have to buy a home, it's a little harder for you to help people buying a home.
That's right. That's right. And in this market, Blaine, we have young people. I always call it move up folks, people that maybe have a 2 or 3 bedroom house. They've had more children. They need a 3 or 4 bedroom house. Those folks, and interest rates now are under 3%. In 2022, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, they expect interest rates to be up around 3.6 to 3.8. So it is a good time to buy a home now. If you need to borrow money, now's the time, because if you wait, 9 times out of 10, next year, 2022, you are going to have a little higher mortgage.
Talk about the process also, and I think it involved us, but it involves other people as well, is having to kind of work with your clients to say, hey, broaden your horizons a little bit, and you'll have a lot more available. So as opposed to, it might not have an Asheville address, but there are a lot of other good areas out there that are worth looking at.
There are, and I think that is, I think agents bring the market knowledge to people. You'd be surprised the people that come from out of town and they believe that they need to be far outside of Asheville to have a good mountain view. And they're so surprised when you take them halfway uptown Mountain Road, or you take them into Weaverville, or you take them into, close in Fairview, and they have a beautiful mountain view. And the thing I love about Asheville is honestly, almost everywhere you turn, there is a beautiful view. It can be long range, it can be short range, it can be up mountain, or it can be down mountain. So there are just many possibilities, but most of the time you have to let people know, and you have to take them and let them see what's available in the market, and they'll tell you where they want to go.
It's funny you say that, because I'm thinking out loud about our home in Fairview, which we love, and we're always grateful that you helped us find it. But we have this great street we live on, Brent, and we're like the only house that doesn't have a mountain view. We have fantastic views, but we can't see the mountains, you know?
But you got that pasture in the back.
No, yeah,
It's beautiful.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you make trade-offs, and you showed us that, you know, I guess explain that process too, Brent, that, you know, you want something, but you're not going to get 10 out of 10 on everything, you know, and sometimes I guess you have to work with clients such as me and show that, you know, will you consider other options? And if they will, you'll be in, you know, you open up a lot more possibilities.
Yep. I think sometimes, Blaine, you have to almost convince people to say, hey, listen, I know this doesn't have all the things you want, but I think you should go see this for comparison. And you'll be surprised. They'll get into a house that they think, well, we're just going because Brent wants us to go. We're going to use it as a comparison for when we find our real house. Oh my gosh, we love this house. Look at this. And all of a sudden, you know, the flat backyard is not as important. All of a sudden, my wife and I, we were dead set on a master bedroom on the first floor.
Right.
We now live in a house where the master bedroom's on the second floor, because quickly the view, the location, the setting, it quickly overtook our desire to be on the first floor. And we decided we could get on up those steps for 10 more years.
And it's so funny you said that, because, you know, I remember we were looking at our house. You did exactly that. You took us to some houses. We were wondering why we're even looking at this house. You know, Cynthia would walk in, and within a second, she said, walk out. I said, Cynthia, you got to look at the house, because she knew, but it helped us. And again, you know, I don't mean to be gushing over the service you provided, but, you know, within a week, we found the house. You know, it's just incredible. And we weren't prepared for that. You know, we thought it'd drag on, and it didn't drag on. You know, it seemed like it was dragging on, but a week is pretty good time to be able to find the house.
Oh, I think so. Yes. And I think that's all about, Blaine, just being proactive and listening. You know, real estate agents are good listeners. They listen. And if they listen, they can hear. I was at a home today, and I led the tour. Another agent brought the client, but I could listen pretty quickly. And within the first 5 or 10 minutes, I knew what was important to this person and what wasn't. And therefore, I steered the tour to those things that I realized were going to be important for that client.
If you're selling,
common sense.
If you're selling your home, how much time should you, we'll talk about it both ways. If you're selling it, how much time should you plan on getting the house ready and then putting it on the market and eventually selling it? How long is that time framework?
Well, I think there's a darn if you do and darn if you don't. There are some buyers who can come into a home that's not quite ready. They have the vision, they have the real estate experience from buying homes, and they don't mind seeing something that's not quite fresh yet. There are other buyers that the minute they see something that's not quite right, it's not the home for them. So I generally tell people you have to have a home ready to sell. I would always say put your best foot forward. I believe early on in the first 2 or 3 weeks, the most critical time when a home is on the market, it's when you're getting the most experience. Everyone's the most excited about it. And I think that's when you really have a great opportunity to sell a home. As a matter of fact, right today, as the second quarter, Blaine, the average house marketing to contract sale is 44 days.
Wow.
That is very low. And so you know that homes are selling quickly. The average, there are 577 homes in our MLS, multiple counties right now for sale. And the average length on the market is 109 days. And that's very short. That's very, very short.
I've asked you before, but on the air, I'll ask you, is it better to sell your house empty or with furniture in it? Sometimes
that depends on the house. And sometimes that depends on the furniture. Let's face it. Some folks may have a different sense of scale than what the people looking at the house may have. Sometimes the scale is not right for the house. And as an agent, we have to say, gee, you've got 18 sofas in this room. We'd like to remove 12 of them. So sometimes you have to do that. And I think the rule of thumb when you're going to sell your home, less is best. If you can remove a couple of pieces of furniture, although they might be great for your lifestyle, they'll help. If you remove them, they'll help show more space. And really sometimes the beauty of the woodwork, the beauty of the view, the beauty of the walls or the windows, you'd be surprised. But the great rule is less is best.
How about artwork?
Artwork, I wish I could tell you the times a buyer would say, I'd like to buy the artwork. And I knew, no, that belongs to the seller. They love the artwork. They've spent years collecting. It's not for sale. So, and I've sold many homes that we would say furnishings, negotiable, however, none of the artwork. People are very, very, very attached to their artwork.
Well, it's funny you're saying that because I'm looking behind you and I'm very impressed. There must be a picture of you with a full head of hair. The guy behind you. Look at this.
One's of a buffalo and one's a character of me. And I did have a little more hair back then.
Oh, no. Are you at your home now?
I am at home.
Oh, I thought you were at the other house.
No. I was able to make it home before the show. So, yes.
Okay. But yeah, it's funny you say that, but I guess you raised another good point, Brent, and I'll ask you to comment on this as well, about everything being negotiable, so when you see a house and talk about that process, do you have the right to ask about buying furniture or buying other things that are in the house?
I think you do if a house is furnished, and it really depends on where the seller might be. So if you're a buyer and you see a piece of furniture that you like, or you see a piece of furniture that is custom made, we have a piece of furniture downstairs here we had custom made, and we've already said that piece of furniture will go with the house. We'll never be able to use it anywhere else again. So it doesn't hurt to ask, and you'd be surprised if you've made a strong offer and they're ready to go. Sellers will meet you halfway.
You gave a great example before of somebody having something objectionable. You talked about the view. What about something else? And I think I asked you this off there. A friend of mine had a beautiful home, but it had a terrible driveway. It's just a driveway, a big sloping driveway. How do you deal with an objection that, people are going to be not like?
Well, look where we are. You're going to have driveways. Some of them are going to be sloped up or sloped down. It really just depends on what the mindset was when the house was built, what the terrain was, and what they could do with the entrance to the home. Some people are absolutely opposed to that, and if they are, it's probably not the home for them. Some people, it doesn't bother them a bit. So it really just depends on the buyer. People come. It was funny. I used this a couple of weeks ago. Someone was looking at a property. It had a challenging driveway.
I like that.
The comment was made, how is this driveway during inclement weather? And I said, well, of the 2 days a year we have inclement weather, I think you can deal with it. People have the impression here, it snows all the time. We are very fortunate here.
And I told you, using me as an example, you told me the same thing too. We have a slightly sloping driveway.
You do?
I thought we love the house, but I kept saying to myself, that driveway is terrible. And at 2 years, that has been a problem one day,
Good.
And then
Good.
if it were, we'd stay in the house that day, So I guess sometimes you have to deal with that as a real estate broker to try to ask the right questions, of the 2 days of the year.
Yeah, the key about that too sometimes, Blaine, is to be sure you are proactive in your communication. If I know an agent's bringing someone there, I'll let that agent know, hey, this is a difficult driveway. I don't want you to get here and be surprised. A couple of years ago, I had who is now a friend say to me, I've had 3 real estate people try to sell my house. My house is on a dirt and gravel road.
Right.
I said, okay. So I went out and looked. I thought, boy, she said, what happens? People get halfway down the dirt and gravel road and they say they don't want it and they turn around. So I made sure that when I listed that home, I was very upfront. Instead of saying beautiful home with beautiful view, my first sentence was, this is a beautiful home on a lovely dirt and gravel road. The house sold, but no one was surprised when they got there that it was on a dirt and gravel road.
Brent, final question. If folks want to get in touch with you, find out more about all the stuff you do or actual score or your real estate work, what's the best bet?
Yeah, my best email address is brussell@beverly-hanks.com, or they can go to beverly-hanks.com.
Okay, look up Brent Russell. Brent, as always, I'd like to thank you for being my guest this second half hour on the Blaine's World Show. If you just stay with me as a wrap up, you and I will just wrap up after I stop taping. Thanks for listening, folks. Hope to see you next Wednesday, 9 a.m. here on WPVM FM. See ya.